Green Gates and Nerds and Leeds Universe and I'm nerdy. You know, I don't think that there is a person who nowadays even still miss Dan the Man Lee. Dan Lee had been gone since 2018. He's been gone for 5 years, and to be fair, I still miss him. But there's probably a lot of people that probably clicked on his video just for a movie review without wondering who this person is. And, well, he was the person that kind of got me into the Marvel Universe and to learn about him and everything that he had done for Marvel Comics and just comic books in general. So, Dan Lee, he's pretty much a pioneer of the comic book industry and the pop culture industry that we all know and love. Dan Lee had put his feet, in the stepping stones of the comic book universe that we all know and love and enjoy to this day. Yes, Dan the Man Lee was actually in the war. He grew up in Queens, New York, and he was recommended in the wartime, but was sadly fired due to his work in comic books. As you can imagine, Dan had a hard time finding work in the universe. So, when he actually found out he had worked on comic books, he decided to stick with that medium and work on a bunch of Marvel superheroes. He pioneered the very first of the Marvel family, the Fantastic Four, which was the family that he created and was almost fired from the Marvel Universe as Marvel Comics. During the 60s, Dan was on a boom, creating superhero after superhero after superhero and making success after success after success, no matter what the medium thrown at him. In fact, if you remember my Amazing Fantasy, Amazing Spider-Man comic book look over, retrospective kind of thing, you remember that I went into detail about how Dan Lee was almost fired for creating Spider-Man, until publisher at the time, Martin Goodman, saw that Dan had potential in his writing. Dan Lee had worked in the years of comic books all the way until his untimely and unfortunate death. Dan Lee is not only a pioneer for working in Marvel Comics and creating superheroes like the Fantastic Four, the Incredible Hulk, Spider-Man, and countless other heroes in the medium, he's also known for his work as well as in animation, manga, and the topic of today. He even worked on a superhero, was co-creator of the new Teen Titans, Marv Wolfman. I've talked about Marv Wolfman briefly from time to time on this channel, but Marv Wolfman is one of the most creative writers out there. And so, with this idea and this concept, I give you a superhero that Dan Lee created in 2007. It wasn't a big name. It was only on the Starz network, which back in the time, people didn't used to have to pay for. Back then, you used to have to pay for Time Warner Cable or Dish Network, and then you get, the Starz network. Anybody out there really remember, I don't think they still do it anymore, but anybody remember, that Starz and HBO had, softcore porn that would come on, at, midnight or something? I remember vaguely catching a few of them, and some of them were okay, but was just really damn awkward. So anybody even remembers any of that? I know that's a weird thing to throw in a topic, but it's yeah, let's talk about the Starz and HBO matches early days. But Starz and HBO, but the Starz network has also put out the Mike Mignola Hellboy series that also were pretty popular. But was this movie as popular as Hellboy Sword of Storms and Blood and Iron? Unfortunately, it wasn't. So, I'm here to talk to you guys about one of Dan Lee's weirdest creations that he's ever worked on. So, welcome, as I'm going to talk about Dan Lee's iconic bird character. So please welcome to my review. Oh, Lord the Condor. Dan, where did you get the idea of the legendary Condor? Well, there's actually a story behind that. So Stan, I'm using still so I don't get copyrighted from YouTube. So Stan noticed that within the world and medium of comic book superheroes, there weren't exactly many Hispanic superheroes. And you have to remember, this was before Jaime was created. So Stan wanted to be a daredevil, and the daredevil that he was, to create a brand new Hispanic superhero. So Dan creates a Hispanic superhero that children, more likely teenagers, can relate to, except one problem. He didn't know who to get for a voice actor. So Dan Lee and his crew hired at the time big Hispanic superstar Wilmer Valderrama, and the movie was taken right off of hand, with Dan Lee writing the story, but Marv Wolfman writing the script for the movie. I think Dan Lee has hired a good person to handle the script of his own story, truthfully. Marv had worked for Stan Lee in the past. Marv Wolfman did, yes, used to write for Marvel Comics. And he also worked for TV with Batman the Animated Series, Batman Beyond, and of course he written one of my favorite episodes of the original Teen Titans series. So it seemed like this was right up Marv's alley. But as a movie, does this still hold up pretty strong? Well, in a way, yes, and in a way, no. See, Stan Lee can write very great characters, and his character of Tony Valdez, who I'll get to in a moment, was a very strong character. In fact, he could stand on his own. I say stand because I'm going to have to talk about his weird origin in a bit, and also the costume and choice weapon of the said superhero. But Stan Lee was still a pioneer in this. But that doesn't mean that this movie probably has anything good. Is it as redeemable as Doctor Strange or Spider-Man? Is it as marketable as like the Incredible Hulk, Guardians of the Galaxy, or even Ant-Man, who his brother worked on? Let's skateboard on together with the Condor and take a look at this very weird, obscure Stan Lee creation. Wow, this movie is definitely in the 90s, starting off with a skateboard competition that everybody is hyped up for. Everybody except for Tony Valdez's cousin, who is losing. So we find out that not only is Tony a skateboarding god and a skateboarding legend, and he's very good on his skateboard, we actually find out that he's actually really intelligent and very smart. See, Tony's somewhat of a protege. He has very smart parents who work for Valtech, and they've invented some pretty impressive stuff. Unfortunately, one of their weapons is used for evil. See, it increases people's heightened senses, so they're faster, stronger, but it also has another side effect. See, by accident, Tony finds out that his parents might be involved in something fishy and wanted by the police. So that is why, before he leaves his house, he gets into an argument with his father.
All your professor says.
Sorry, Papa. I'm perfectly happy with what I'm doing.
But you could help us do so much good for them.
Let's see. A teenage superhero, or soon-to-be superhero, gets into an argument with a father figure. And he's super smart. I can't put my finger on it, but this happened to remind me of another Stan Lee superhero that he's worked on before. I don't have a beard because I shaved it off, but I wonder who that this character would remind me of. Yeah. No, it's kind of obvious. You do see the comparison that Stan Lee carried over a little sprinkle of Spider-Man into Tony Valdez. The comparison is pretty obvious. Similar to Tony Valdez and the Condor, it is very obvious that he does get into an argument with his father, similar to how Peter got into an argument with his Uncle Ben earlier in Spider-Man. Now, I don't mind the comparison because I love Spider-Man. You guys know that. I talked about Spider-Man relentlessly on the channel, but I wish that Stan Lee had done something a little different. Now, there is technically a line where with great power comes great responsibility that comes into play with a Condor that takes very much inspiration from Spider-Man, but then there's something else. That's right, people. It's time to grab those Kleenexes because I'm going to make you sad. Even sadder than watching Uncle Ben die on the television screen. Oh, dear Lord. Nothing against Dan Lee. I love the guy. I think that he had the most unique ideas. He had the most amazing and creative imagination than anyone else in the world, and nobody was able to take that away from him. In fact, he held on to that title for the longest time from working in the comic book medium, especially animation, manga, etc. But, yeah, as much as I love Dan Lee, I wish that he didn't come right out and basically do like the, hey, I'm gonna copy Spider-Man. And I get it. Spider-Man is a great property. He's been an amazing character. He's one that Dan Lee has loved to his day, and especially that Dan, unfortunately, couldn't see the success of Miles Morales, but I'm still thinking that he is still, deep down inside, very happy for the creation of Miles. I was. At first, I was against Miles. I would be free to admit that. But I'm actually happy that Miles exists. But there is also another superhero that he technically takes a little bit of inspiration from that I'll have to talk about in just a few minutes. See, Stan Lee was actually one of the best friends of Batman co-creator Bob Kane. He hung out with Bob Kane a lot during the two younger years. So Stan technically was in the origin, technically borrowed from Mr. You-Know-Who over at DC standing in the dark corner. Oh yeah, he pulled a comparison to a Batman. Well, sort of. See, Batman lost his parents at a young age due to tragedy. But similar to Batman, it was crime that took his parents away from him. And it wasn't a mugger, but it was a close friend of his parents. But the comparison is there, and I see the comparison to this famous character. But I still wish that Dan did something a little different. See, it's awesome that Stan borrowed from friends of his. He always had done that. He even borrowed off of his own creations sometimes. That's not to say that's bad, but Stan is basically chock full of ideas. He can take a really stupid concept and turn it into a basically blockbuster picture if he really wanted to. So Stan was basically noticeable for doing that. But combining Spider-Man with Batman was kind of a dumb choice. It's like, you can have this smart, creative Hispanic teenager, but also give him, the benefits of Batman. It's kind of a cool combination, but then when you really think about it, it doesn't work. These two characters combining kinda doesn't work in a way. You would think that there would be much more to meet the eye. And also, no, I'm not going to show you, but the Condor in this movie does make quips very similar to Spider-Man or Dick Grayson, aka Nightwing, which is awesome. And also, yeah, because a lot of teenage superheroes nowadays do quips in comic books. Thanks to Dick Grayson being the first person to do that. And also, I think Bucky from Captain America used to quip every now and again. Now, before we talk about the Condor and the rest of Tony Valdez and his character, we gotta talk about his supporting cast really quick, and also the twist of the movie to come in. So let's talk about his supporting cast, which is kind of small. There's only 3 characters that are basically prominent through the film. I talked about his cousin, and his cousin is kind of not really the full picture, so to speak. He's there in the film, and then he disappears, then he comes back again, then he disappears again. Supposedly, they were hinting at a sequel, but there is no sequel to the Condor. So let's talk about the 3 characters. Sammy, Z-Man, or Zeb, and Valeria. So let's talk about these 3 supporting characters. First, there's Tony's love interest in the movie, Sammy. She is adorable, she's quirky, and I love her throughout the movie. She becomes the heart and soul of the Condor and becomes Tony's love interest later. Stan Lee knows how to write good female characters, and I gotta say that Sammy is definitely one of those amazing characters that exist primarily through the film. Then there's Z-Man, or Zeb. He's the bad boy of the team, but he's not actually a true bad boy. He actually really does care about people, but he only puts on the bad boy persona. Zeb may appear to be like a douchebag, but he's actually has a heart of gold underneath him. And he also really does care about his fans. Oh, does he care about them?
Me too.
What do you want me to sign? Since I joined these men, I have seen shit that'll turn you white.
Then there is Voluptuous Valeria. Oh my, does he have Valeria in this film, who is a seductress. Well, I'm not exactly wrong. She is a seductive woman in this, and she is a seductress toward Tony, but there's even more that she is to meet the eye. So, not only is she the enemy in this movie, she's the enemy Taipan that shows up in this movie. I would compare and contrast and show you the big dun-dun-dun reveal, but I'd like for you to check out this movie for yourself so you can see that big reveal. It's both sexy and also it was one of those, oh, he didn't moment. Stan Lee, I watched the bonus features in this. Stan has said that he liked using sexy women or seductresses to kind of throw people off because he himself had created Stripperella, if you remember me talking about that and doing that video. Also, I recommend checking out Saberspark's video on Stripperella if you want to go into more detail. But I told the story of how Stripperella came to be. But Stan Lee likes using attractive or sexy women sometimes, especially as the villain. I think thanks to him, because even I still do it, and I used to do it when I used to do comics, which I don't anymore, my own homemade ones, that I used to do the same idea of using a sexy seductress in there, but then using them to be one of the villains later on. Who knew Stan Lee would raise me in the best of ways? So let's talk about... So let's make one more comparison to another Stan Lee creation, and then we'll talk about the Condor himself as a character. So tell me, does this scene look oddly familiar to you?
I saw.
You had quite a night. The doctor says you're going to be okay now.
Oh no.
Oh, this is so hard for me. The doctor said, he said there's a good chance that you may never walk again.
What?
Why, while you were in the car.
What did they do?
11 stainless steel pins in the bone.
Jesus Christ, Dan, you made me use a reference and cameo from a film that wouldn't be created for like 10 years after you did the Condor. God damn it, Dan, I love you, but you're hard to hate at the same time. He's kind of like that one grandfather that you have who sometimes dares to tell the same story, but he's so lovable that you just don't want to throw him out. But with Dan, it's like, okay, we used all the ideas. Tony can never walk again. Dr. Strange can never use his hands again. So let's actually talk about the character, the basically main point of the movie, because the movie has multiple points it wants to make. So don't expect me to come in here and go, you know, this was good, this was good, this was good. No. Let's talk about Tony's transformation into the Condor, which is pretty much the biggest selling point of the entire movie, and probably what you're interested in listening to. So while getting physical therapy, Tony gets some advice from his friend, Doug, or Dog, who is voiced by Scott McNeil. Dog's advice kind of comes off like this. He told Tony never to give up on his dreams, to put his mind before his body, and maybe he can excel to higher places. Tony makes a one-time attack against Taipan in the film, and this is his calling to become a superhero after he saved his best friend from almost being kidnapped and turned into zombies. And so, after the necklace that his mother gave him, he decides to become a superhero, deciding to become the Condor, a skateboarding superhero. So, is the Condor a saving grace of Stan Lee about having a hero having to come through his disability and his disability, kind of, and will take on the role of a hero to save his friends and his family? Unfortunately, the Condor isn't Doctor Strange or Spider-Man. He doesn't measure up exactly to the superheroes of Stan Lee's earlier careers, I'm sad to say. The movie is a mixed bag. It has some elements that are great in it, but it also shares some elements that Stan Lee has done before that don't quite work here. The movie isn't great, but it is highly terribly flawed. It's not bad either, but it takes a while before those flaws can come undone, and you can enjoy the movie for what it is. It's a Stan Lee animated picture about a Hispanic boy who becomes a superhero. You can't get much more awesome than that, but it's a required taste for a required certain person. So unlike Stan Lee's other famous superheroes or spectacular superheroes like Spider-Man, Doctor Strange, The Incredible Hulk, the X-Men, or the Fantastic Four, this movie is not legendary like those comic book characters are. But speaking of legendary, I wonder if Stan Lee makes an infamous cameo in The Condor. You might be wondering. Well, wonder no more, because he does.
You can call me the Condor.
Thank you, Mr. Condor.
So, should you check out Stan Lee's The Condor? It depends. If you're a die-hard fan of Stan Lee, you might find something redeemable quality in this film. If you're a casual moviegoer like me, and also a Stan Lee fan, you might still enjoy it for what it is. But, however, Stan Lee's The Condor is a mixed bag. It has things that are great, but at the same time it has things that are less desirable to keep in this film. Stan Lee's The Condor was pretty great in my opinion, but it's kind of also lesser known amongst the other films. So, Stan Lee's The Condor is kind of legendary. It has some moments that are good, and it has some moments that are bad, but in the end, it is still legendary. And that is why my Funko Pop rating of The Condor, or Stan Lee's The Condor, I'm going to give it the honorary rating of being a Supreme Strange. Something that is definitely legendary, and something that it definitely is a mixed bag. Guys, as always, thank you so much for watching. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Follow me at Twitter with a link in the description down below. And speaking of legendary, and also not to be dark or anything, but my video next time will go back into your dark territory, since it will be 1 year next week, or Monday, that I lost my childhood hero, Jason David Frank. So in honor of him, and hopefully that YouTube can keep its gritty copyright paws off of my video, we're going to take a look at Power Rangers Zeo in honor of Jason David Frank. So it will be Morphin Time on Monday. But I'm not going to close this video off my usual way, but I will remind you that I've been Lazy Universe, I've been White Nerdy, keep eking on, but I'm going to give the honorable mention of ending this video to Stan the Man Lee. So, please enjoy Stan Lee's exciting catchphrase.